Today, the members of the Science and Security Board moved the hands of the doomsday clock forward, largely, though not exclusively, because of the mounting dangers in the war in Ukraine. We moved the clock forward the closest it has ever been to midnight. It is now 90 seconds to midnight.
I'm back. I'm home. All the time. We finally really did it. You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
The disappointed man speaks. I sought for great men, but all I found were the apes of their ideal. As sure as today wills to end, and new toys grow old, decade-long fads decay. 70s dies to 80s, dies to 90s. Dies to zero. And like a glorified game of whack-a-mole or a dog chasing its own tail, in the madness of our idolatry, we ensnare ourselves, caught in this dance of the decades, seeking new sacred artifacts, new fads, new idols, new drugs, just to wear them out too. This running gag reel of man's continued confrontation with crisis of chaos leaves him confused and uncertain. For in time, all of his gods will die. In time, the alluring illusions lose their allure, and so too their ability to distract from the existential elephant in the room, the world-redeeming gargantuan imperative to paint an image on the backdrop of a blank canvas is all that stares back at us.
This is how it all caves in. Civilization on the wane, manners out the window.
Let go and behold our world in decadence, masks desecrated and torn asunder, exposing the fossilized record of our inner core, our global midlife crisis, our looming masterpiece, our fraudulence silhouetted in twilight. Jung writes, "On the whole, I believe I am not exaggerating when I say that modern man has suffered an almost fatal shock, psychologically speaking, and as a result has fallen into profound uncertainty. A time before, Bruce's parents were above, but in time they fell. An inversion of a sacred order has taken place. Now he towers over them, idols destroyed for no apparent reason at all, leaving exposed the true nature of their impermanence. In man's search for purpose, the apparently meaningless death of his sacred idols presents a stark confrontation with nihilism. In this turbulent sea of reality, he frantically seeks a new foundation, an island, something to support himself. And in that desperation, he risks a pendulum swing to new idols under a new spell of a new illusion.
New rules. We're criminals, Alfred. We've always been criminals. Nothing's changed.
Oh, yes it has, sir.
Indeed, Bruce's very soul is in peril, and in the cave of his psyche he fears and fights his many bats. Nietzsche says, to be obliged to fight the instincts, this is the formula of degeneration. Bruce's lower instincts are here represented as the many bats in the womb of the earth or the cave of the unconscious self. As such, they also represent the natural world and cosmic law. He is the whale among the fishes, the paradox of ego among its many constituent autonomous elements bound by life's natural flow. As long as life is in the ascending line, happiness is the same as instinct. When Bruce embraces the bats, he ascends along the Nietzschean ascending line. They thus take him to the light, a blinding light. The most blinding light of day, reason at any price, life made clear, cold, cautious, conscious, without instincts, opposed to the instincts, was in itself only a disease, another kind of disease, and by no means a return to virtue, to health, and to happiness. After Bruce's momentary embrace of the instincts, he has found a new thing to cling to. The belief in the beautiful lies and the idolatry of the beautiful light, a false god, a masterpiece of fraud, the notion that through light of reason man can conquer his nature and suppress his instincts, his lower instincts. This is tantamount to believing one can control anything in the natural world itself through the rational, itself a series of causal if-then statements. We see very clearly the association between the blinding light and the idolatry of the intellect as the shot immediately transitions to Bruce immersed not in the instincts of his bats, but cradled instead in a helicopter, visually surrounded by fast-moving jets, shooting missiles in the major city of Metropolis, civilization itself with all its buildings and skyscrapers. All of these elements represent the achievements made through the intellect, our modern-day idols. The outward expressions of the intellect are nevertheless crushed by larger cosmic orders, their impermanence so too exposed. In overestimation of the intellect, Batman carelessly acts like the Apollonian attitudes of becoming more rational, more ordered, more disciplined, more austere, can save him from his lower self, his inner animal, the Jungian shadow, the Dionysian, the natural world itself. Does Batman wear the cowl because he feels he can control his inner animal, as some sort of technologically advanced layer to cradle him from a harsh and complex reality, a cradle of the intellect? Has it become for him a glorified security blanket? In any case, his attachment to it as an existential support mechanism ends up consuming him. He brands criminals, itself a sign of absolutist value judgments thrust upon the world around him. To brand someone is to say they are something absolutely, whether negative or positive. There is a sense of permanence in the nature of the brand, alluding to this notion of diamond absolutes, in this case, an absolute moral value judgment. There is also the notion that Batman should absolutely not kill, but this too represents a kind of infantile attachment to value judgments which tend to oversimplify the world into yang with no yin. For instance, Batman is not breaking the no-kill rule by branding the criminal, and yet his action does lead to his death, which is an even greater indictment if he was aware that it would likely lead to his death. Yet if we rigidly restrict ourselves to the oversimplified rationale of value judgments or moral absolutes, Batman should never kill, we would be blind to a serious and severe moral problem due to the egregious simplicity of rational technicalities, since Batman didn't directly kill Santos. Someone else did. This is the issue with strict absolute moral value judgments, or causal rationalism as a psychological or existential support system in the face of the existential elephant. the light of rational discernment, treated so absolutely, all too clear that it blinds one from the true nuance and complexity of life. That is, there is paradoxically an ignorance in putting so much stake in the idea that one can fully conquer, i.e. rationalize, the natural world, a world that is at heart complex and irrational, most directly because everything ultimately affects everything else. If one does not appreciate this complexity and becomes addicted to rational discernment of the world around them, they rarely entertain that what they're seeing might not be what it seems like. This type of person too quickly wants to assign or project value judgments based on what is literally presented to them. When modern man confronts a new crisis of chaos, his immediate response is to assume the protector role. And to him, this means becoming aggressively rational, jumping to an unwarranted sense of certainty to protect his advanced concrete jungle, his existential safe haven of diamond absolute fixtures. Clinging to spiritual infancy, he trades adulthood for new parental figures by erecting skyscrapers, here exposed as yonic.
You're okay, all right? Huh? You know what? We're gonna find your mom. Where is she?
A womb built by the phallus of his own intellect, a cradle of the intellect designed to protect him from the greater cosmic order that he perceives as the threat of devilish chaos, to be avoided at all cost. A similar situation is experienced by an extremely technologically advanced alien civilization who could not avoid their own self-annihilation, born out from overemphasis and complacency of their perceived power, dominance, and control of the natural world through science, technology, and strict societal roles, hierarchies and stratifications, and no-kill rules.
You won't kill us yourself! You wouldn't sully your hands, but you'll damn us to a black hole for eternity!
Krypton is the phallus of the intellect brought to its inevitable extreme. Unnaturally, scientifically controlled birth, a predetermined role for everyone, a world and its core absolutely harvested, left without a foundation, signals the disease of decadence. The decadence of the valuing instinct, both in our politicians and in our political parties, goes so far that they instinctively prefer that which acts as a solvent, that which precipitates the final catastrophe.
I warned you. Harvesting the core was suicide. It has accelerated the process of implosion.
Our energy reserves were exhausted. What would you have us do?
Zod himself, a cold and calculating general who in the confrontation with the death of the fallen idols of Krypton and advanced alien civilization sees things all too clearly. The uncertainty associated with faith of free will is wholly denied as heresy.
We've had a child, Zod. Krypton's first natural birth in centuries. And he will be free. Free to forge his own destiny.
Heresy! Destroy it!
An archetypal expression of religious zealotry. Another expression of life-denying absolutism. His world and endeavors are born out of a false sense of certainty, superiority of race, of this has to happen, and only this has to happen. Hope, chance, freedom all stand as contrary to the much idolized certainty of predetermined roles. The life of an innocent newborn baby is the embodiment of those contrary virtues, and so Zod has no qualms denying its life in favor of a world of strict, stagnant, rigid conformity.
Target locked.
And not a day goes by where it doesn't haunt me. But if I had to do it again, I would. I have a duty to my people. And I will not allow anyone to prevent me from carrying it out.
It's simple and obvious. To unite the world, to make it make sense, force it so by freeing us from our free will.
This world is divided. There are primitive species, unevolved and at war with one another, too separate to be one. Their free will must be ripped from them, given absolution in one glorious belief.
Finally, freed from the shackles of our existential imperative, the slavery of individual agency replaced by the comforting certainty of pre-assigned roles for everybody. All else be heresy. Broken men in the ruins of their broken boat, seeking an island of holy absolutes, a cosmos of sacred certainty, a world where the masculine principles of reason, logic, and technological prowess can save our souls from the primitive savagery of instinct, from nature itself. And so this Western man precariously props his psyche upon his own masterpiece of fraud. Here he hangs his own head on this thin thread, his ticking time bomb. Tick-tock.